The Vav Amud Beis will begin the Vav Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom. We learned previously the question about someone who's boil Anita. Anita herself, she sees Dam, she's Tameya for 7 days, and then she's Toivelis after the 7 days, the night after. She can't be Toivel during the day, the 7th day, only the night after. The question is, a person who's boil Anita, he's similarly Tomei for 7 days. Is his tefillah like the nida and therefore only in the nighttime, not in the day, or can be toivel even at the daytime? Rav Simon ben Hardoa suggested that perhaps the boil nida is like a nida, and therefore he must be toivel at night and not during the day. And then when our Mishnah says, the Mafresh the Kayin Gadol 7 days before Yom Kippur, it means actually a little bit more than that. It means actually a little bit even on the end, by the end of the 8th day prior to Yom Kippur. So that is the issue. That's the question over here. Is the boil nida, is it like the nida herself or not? Meisel Asukash from Mishnah Sovin, it says Balkari Kimagashers. A person who's a Balkari has a din like someone who touched a dead sheretz, one of the Shmoyer Shots. And boil nida gets Tomei Meis, and someone who's boil nida is like someone who has Tomei, has the din of someone who's Tomei by coming into contact with a Meis. So what do we mean with this comparison? What are we coming to teach us? My love, let tefillah. Doesn't it come to teach us the din of tefillah, that teaching us that just like someone who is a boil nida, he's a Tomei Meis, that just like a Tomei Meis, that the tefillah is in the daytime. He doesn't have to wait till the night after. It's in the daytime. So too, a boil nida is not like a nida. It's like a Tomei Meis, and the tefillah is in the daytime, not the nighttime. The Gemara says, "Loi letumosa." It means for the length of the tumah. It doesn't mean that we're not discussing when the tefillah is. It's the length of the tumah. Just like a Tomei Meis, someone that comes into contact with a Meis is Tomei for 7 days. Someone who's boil nida is Tomei for 7 days. Correct the Gemara. How can you say that? Tumasa behejik behu. The length of the tumah says beferish. Hi tumah shivik be, v'hai tumah shivik be. In both cases, it says that it says yitma shivas yomim, and by the man who's the boil nida, it says he nidos lavet tomei shivas yomim. So in both cases, the Torah tells us clearly that the duration of the tumah is for 7 days. So it can't be that to teach me that ella letfilosan. Doesn't mean therefore it's coming to teach us that when the tefillah takes place, that just like someone who's Tomei Meis, the tefillah is by day, and boil nida, the tefillah is by daytime. When says late, no, not necessary. Lo elam letumosa. Really, I'll tell you, it's telling you a halacha by the tumah. And yes, it's true, like you mentioned, that to tell me that the duration of the tumah is 7 days, it's not needed. The Torah says that beferish, but nevertheless, it's coming to teach a halacha by tumah, perhaps, and not by tefillah. Seifa is richale. You need to teach me that what it says in the Seifa, ela shechamrim ben boil nida, that they have the similarity on tumah, that they are similar in tumah, that they're both Tomei 7 days. Now that's not a chiddush, but the chiddush is shechaymer mimena boil nida. The boil nida has a chumrah of someone who comes into contact with a meis shemetama mishkev umoisha betuma kala. The tama oichlu mashkim, that as opposed to a Tomei Meis, someone who is boil nida can be metama mishkev umoisha with a tuma kala. A nida, if she sits, or a nida azava, if they sat on it, 10 pillows, one top of each other, 10 mattresses, one on top of each other. The nida, she sits on the top one, even if she did not touch the bottom one, she makes the bottom one a tomei, and it's metame, just like the top one is tomei with a tumah of an avat tumah that can be metame not only oichlim and mashkim, food and drinks and beverages, but also to be metame adam and kalim, people and kalim. The top one is metamet, the bottom one is also metamet. A Tomei Meis comes into contact with something, it's Tomei. It's in an oil maze, it's Tomei. But if it's not in an oil, if the mace comes into contact with the top item, if there's no contact with the bottom item, it's not tamei. It's not tamei. So the nida has a chumrah. Now the boil nida also has a chumrah. It's not to the same extent as the nida herself. It's a lesser. It's a tuma kala, but nevertheless, the boil nida is also matama mishkav moishav with the tachtan and the elyon, but only a tuma kala. So therefore, if the boil nida sits on the pillow, then he's matama everything that's underneath it, even the bottom one. But that pillow is only matama oichlem mashkin. It doesn't have the power to be matama a adam and kalim. It's not an avatuma, like in the case of the nida, it's an avatuma. In the case of the boil nida, it's only a rishon, so it can be matama oichlem mashkin, but not adam and kalim. But it has a chumrah. It has a chumrah over the tomei meis. So that's why it says over here that the seifa is a chiddush. The reisha that there is matama the boil nida like a tomei meis, and a chanami is not a chiddush. Perhaps I'll tell you that it's only talking about that the duration of the tumas for 7 days, and it's not talking about when the tefillah takes place. There's no chiddush, but the seifa, it says that agav is an introduction to the seifa, which is a chiddush. So Tashma Gemara says, let's bring a proof from the following. The Tanya Rabbi Chia Hazav Matzaira V'Matzaira Sabul Nida Utami Meis. All of these categories, it says Tfilah Sambayim. It says that the Tfilah takes place in the daytime. So they can be the matam in the daytime, but nida v'yoledes, anida, and a woman who gave birth, tfilosan balayla. It says tfilosan balayla. And you see here clearly that the boil nida, the tefillah of the boil nida is not like a nida, it's tfilosan bayim, and therefore when we say in the Mishnah that mafrishin kain gadol 7 days, it means literally 7 days. We don't have to do it any earlier. Frank the Gemara, when we said that we're mafresh the kain gadol basically from his wife because of the possibility that he's boil her and suffix nida, and it'll be tummy 7 days as the din of the boil nida. So Frank the Gemara v'ashata mafrisha mitumas beisai afrishayo mitumas ameis. Well, why don't you have to sequester him, be mafresh him from everybody? Why just from his wife? Because of the chashash of boil nida. Why aren't you concerned that if he has in contact with somebody, the person might die and he'll be in contact with a mace? Why aren't you concerned about the chashash that he'll become tomei with the tumas mace? And therefore, be mafresh him from everybody, not just his wife. More answers. Amar of Tachliv Avud Rav Hun Mishmei Derava Zaysai Meres Tumas Ames Hutrahi Betzibur. We must learn out from here, therefore, that Tumas Meis is Hutra Betzibur. We learn out from the Korban Pesach that if a person is Tomei, he's Nidcha, he's pushed off to Pesach Sheni. But a Tzibur, Ish Nidcha, Ve'en Tzibur Nidochim. The Tzibur is not pushed off, the Tzibur does the Korban Pesach B'Tumah. Meaning, therefore, if the majority of the Tzibur of the congregation is Tomei, nevertheless, they can perform and do the Avodah B'Tumah. Even though the Avodah, the Korbanos cannot be done B'Tumah, but if Rav Tzibur of the majority of the congregation is Tomei, it's done B'Tumah. This extends to not only if the Rav Tzibur, but if the Kohen Gadol, who it's needed, his Avodah, the Avodah has to be done by the Kohen Gadol. Therefore, it's also considered the case of a Korban Tzibur in this regard. And therefore, if a Kohen Gadol is Tomei, he can do the Avodah. He can do the Avodah. And even the Kohen Gadol's private Korbanos, so he does the Avodah on Yom Kippur of the Korbanos that are the Korbanos Tzibur, but he also has his par and ayil. The par l'chatas and ayil o'ila, which are his, that come from his funds, but nevertheless, since it's Zmana Kavua, it comes at a specific time, it has to come at this specific time. It also pushes off the Isser of Tumah. Now there's a general machlokes that we say Tumah Hutra B'Tzibur or Tumah Dechuya B'Tzibur. that the korban can be done, these types of korbanos can be done with tuma, does that mean that if it was done with tuma, it's kosher, but it's only reluctantly that we allow it? That's dechuya b'tzibur. Or do we say no, tuma hutra b'tzibur? That when it comes to a korban tzibur or this type of a korban, we say there is no isser of tuma. The isser doesn't exist, so there's no even reason to try to circumvent it and try to prevent it because there's no isser of tuma in this case. Therefore, let us bring a raya from here. Let's say that we see from here that Zoyse Mersa shows us that since we're not concerned at all about Tumas Meis, and we don't have to be mafish the Kohen Gadol from everybody, it's only me basically from his wife, that means that shows you that Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, we're not concerned at all about Tuma, and even if he does come in contact with a mace, we're not concerned because Tuma Hutra B'tzibur. Ravina Amar, no, perhaps you don't have to say that. Afilo tema tumas hameis dechuya b'tzibur. Perhaps you can say that no, the tumas hameis is dechuya b'tzibur, and only reluctantly would we allow it b'tuma. So why do we have not say that we're mafresh the kohen gadol from everybody because he might come into contact with a mess, the person he's engaged with might die? We don't say that. We're not concerned because tumas hameis lo shchicha, tumas beis shchicha, because it's not likely. It's not a likely occurrence, so we don't have to be concerned with it. But there's a greater likelihood that he might be boil ishta nida, sofek nida, and it'll be 27 days. So for that, we are concerned. So now we mentioned this din of Tumah Hutra B'tzibur and Tumah Dechuya B'tzibur. Itmar Tumas Hameis Rav Nachman Amar Hutra B'tzibur Rasheshes Amar Dechuya B'tzibur. So they have this machlokes. Rav Nachman Rasheshes, is it Dechuya or is it Hutra? So the more clarifies. Hey Chadiika Tamei Matorim Beho Beis Av. If in the same Beis Av, so the Kohanim were divided into mishmaras, into different segments, and every week there was a different mishmar, and within the week, every day of the week, with except the Shabbos, that they were all together during the 6 days of the week, there was a different Beis Av. It was subdivided into a different Beis Av. Now, if it within the same Beis Av that there's Tameim and Taharim, there's some Kohanim which are Tamei, and some which are Taharim in the same Beis Av, Gemara wants to say, everyone would agree, even if you say Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, nevertheless, if in the same Beis Av you have Kohanim or Taharim, but you would not utilize the Tameim, you would say the Taharim do it. That everyone would agree to that. And the Ritva speaks out that that is the case even if you have more choshev kohanim, which are tamei. Nevertheless, you would use the tahirim and not include the tameim and the garam. The Gemara Sari says that, however, this is a din d'Rabbanan, because if you hold that tuma hutra b'tzibur, the tuma is not a factor. We don't even take that into account, minat Torah. So therefore, this would be a din d'Rabbanan to be machmer and say this. So al kol panim, what we're saying that if you have both in the same mishmar, everyone would agree that even if you say tuma hutra of Nachman, also agree that teharim avdei tameim lo yavdei. We would not let the tameim do it. Ki pligi lahadur of lasuya tarmi beis avachrina. The machlokes is if the entire base of their tamei, do we go and go take Kohanim from a different Beis Av who are tar? That's what the machlokes is. Rav Nachman Amar Heti B'tzibur V'lo Madrina. Rav Nachman says to go to another Beis Av, since Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, even midrabanan, we would not say that go into another Beis Av, and we would let the Kohanim or Tamei do the Avodah. Rasheshes Amar Dechuya B'tzibur Madrina. Rasheshes says no, it's only Dechuya B'tzibur. We only reluctantly allow it. Now here, if you have other Kohanim that are in a different Beis Av, we would say that go take Kohanim from a different Beis Av and don't do it B'tuma. Now, what would it be if you have the entire Mishmar that would be Tamei? So according to the Rambam says that you would have to go to a different mishmar. If you hold Tumah D'chuya B'tzibur, you would even have to go to that extent, to the further extent, to go to a different mishmar. So it's not clear what the other Rishonim would hold, but that's what the Rambam says, that if you hold D'chuya, you would even go to that extent. So that's one approach. The Gemara says, a different approach is, even if you have in the same Beisav, you have Tmeim, but you also have Tahirim, still, Polig Rav Nachman, Rav Amram, Nami Tmeim. Rav Nachman, who says, he would say, there's no reason to use the Dafka, the Taharim, and we would allow the Tmeim to do it, because Tumah, Hutra B'tzibur. The whole Tumas Meis B'tzibur Rachman Ashari, the Torah is matter, and therefore there's no reason to use other Kohanim Taharim, and even Midrabanan, according to this approach, we would say that no, we don't have to utilize the Taharim. The Tameim can do it, and they're in the Geirol just like everybody else. The Taharim and Tameim are equal.